Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Sunday, April the 26th. Ian Cameron with you. Alex B. Smith will be here in just a moment, ready to break down the Sunday NHL Stanley Cup playoff card. We've got 4 games on tap here on this Sunday, and excited about it. We've got Buffalo-Boston with the Sabres up 2-1. We have a chance at another sweep on the slate today with Colorado up 3-0 on Los Angeles. Tampa Bay, Montreal, which has been a spectacular series. Are we going to get our 4th straight overtime game in that series tonight? We'll have to see. And Edmonton, Anaheim, they can't make that total high enough in that series. They're back at it with Game 4 tonight at the Honda Center. Looking forward to that. We'll look back first on yesterday. We start with a very physical, very contentious, that's the best word, contentious Game 4 on Saturday afternoon between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Ottawa Senators. That's really what the headline was. The hockey almost took a back seat in that Carolina-Ottawa game to everything that went on during the game. Obviously, Carolina gets the job done, winning the series, sweeping Ottawa with yesterday's victory. It was just a series where, Ottawa couldn't get much generated. And really the one element for Ottawa that let them down and the biggest catalyst for them losing the series and going out in 4 straight was the horrific power play. It was just pathetic. It was awful. And it was so bad. The one thing the power play cannot do if you're going to win is it cannot kill your momentum. Okay. And at the very least, what you have to do on a power play in the playoffs, even if you don't score, you have to get chances. You have to pepper the net. You have to look threatening on the power play. And guess what? The Ottawa Senators did not look that way at all for the most part on the power play in the series. And it killed their momentum time and time again. And it ended up being just a detriment to them. Carolina, now, look, we have to tip the cap to Carolina's penalty kill. There's a reason Carolina's been one of the best teams on the penalty kill over the years, and they showed it once again in this series. But the Ottawa power play was just not good enough. It seemed like everything was in slow motion. They didn't move the puck well enough. Players were stationary in the offensive zone. There were times they overlooked taking a shot and passed instead. I mean, it was just one of those instances for Ottawa where there's just nothing clicking at all with the power play. We do have to give their defense credit. We do have to give Frederik Andersen credit. This was a very good series for him. And you have to give him a lot of credit because to say the regular season was not very good for him was an understatement. And for him to play as well as he did in that series is a credit to him. He's been around the blocks, in the playoffs. He's found a way to elevate at times in the past, and he's done it here in this series as well. They did score 1 power play goal yesterday, Ottawa, with Drake Batherson's goal, but still they had countless other opportunities in that game, including a 5-on-3 that fell by the wayside, and it just ended up hurting them in the end. So Carolina gets the win. From a betting standpoint, really good game, and the elimination games kind of played out the way we kind of told you they would here on the show. Look for live overs. I can't say it enough, especially once Carolina got that first goal from Taylor Hall to make it 1-0. And right away, I jumped on the live over in that game. It was 3.5 at the time. I said, the thing's got to open up now because Ottawa's facing elimination. There's no tomorrow. It's trailing in the game. They got to take even more risks, take even more chances, pinch the defense, all that stuff. The game could open up, and that's exactly what we saw there in that. And then the third period, the floodgates opened. Despite the fact that it was 1-1 going into the second period, we had a 3-1 third period, 4 goals. We saw Carolina go up 2-1 with Logan Stankoven. What a freaking series that guy had. That whole line, Stankoven, Hall, and Blake, was incredible. Then Aho into the empty net. But again, 3-1 with 2 minutes left. You know damn well Travis Green's pulling the goalie again. It's exactly what happened. They actually cut it to 3-2 with the Dylan Cousins goal, pulled the goalie again. And then, of course, it was Sebastian Aho's second straight empty net goal to make it 4-2. So the full game over 5.5 that I had a little piece of cashed in as well. Third period over 1.5, 2.5. which you could have bet pregame on its own. So, yeah, again, we're going to hammer this home throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs with elimination games, live overs. Now, as far as the physicality quotient, the Nikishin hit was very unfortunate. I hate to break it, but it's not that overly dirty of a hit. It's a little bit late, but it's very, very clean by Clevin on Nikishin there. And it was just an unfortunate result that his head speed, you could see he was seeing stars, after that hit. His world was in orbit, at that time. And then he had to get helped off the ice. And now it sounds like he's in concussion protocol. And obviously his status for the beginning of the second round for Carolina certainly going to be in a little bit of doubt. And then all hell broke loose on the ice. And the refs lost control, complete and utter control of that game. They totally lost control. I don't think their delineation of what the penalties was very good either. There were times it's like, why the hell is Carolina getting the extra penalty? Oh, why the hell is Ottawa getting the extra penalty? So there were all kinds of issues like that throughout the game last night, yesterday afternoon as well. But the single biggest problem I had with it, like, I love the intensity, I love the emotion, I love the violent part of it to an extent, but I don't like the way it was handled all that much by the officials. But the one thing that obviously pissed me off the most, and I can tell on the TNT broadcast that it pissed off Paul Bissonnette as well, the absolute garbage, the absolute cowardly, chicken shit act that I've seen in a long time in the playoffs by Ridley Gregg. That is acceptable. That can't happen. He is tied up at the time. Sean Walker, he's tied up at the time with Warren Fogle in a scrum. And I think at the time Fogle had Sean Walker, the defenseman for Carolina, in a headlock. So he's just dealing with that, with Fogle one-on-one. He has no idea what's going on around him. He has no idea who's standing next to him or behind him. And here is Ridley Gregg, not just punching him, rearing back and cocking his fist back and pounding him when he can't even see it and he can't even defend himself. That's chicken shit. That's a horrible display by Ridley Gregg. And he should have had the book thrown at him. He probably should have been, if the referees, and that's another reason why the fucking refs lost control. Apparently nobody saw it. Nobody saw him did that. If one of the refs saw him do that, he should have been tossed right then and there from that game. It's a horrible gesture there by Ridley Gregg. Awful. It's unacceptable. Can't happen. You can't punch a guy like that. Are you serious? And not just, this wasn't just, as Biz said in the intermission, this wasn't just Ridley Gregg doing a little rabbit punch, or just, some, punches to the side there, just little ones. He reared back and tried to punch him uppercut style right in the face. That's ridiculous. That is such an asshole move. You can't even explain it. You can't even possibly try to defend it. And it's just horrific to see that in that instance. And like I said, should be ashamed of him. I know he should be. Everyone was talking about it. All the shame will be from people ridiculing him for doing that on social media. That's all the shame and embarrassment that guy needs for an incident like that. But that was very unfortunate. But credit to Carolina. Great job by them winning, sweeping away Ottawa. Again, too, the injuries on the blue line, too much to overcome as well. Jake Sanderson, one of their better shutdown defensemen as well. Artem Zub, they've missed him for most of the series as well. Just too much to overcome. And Carolina, the better team advancing, Alex, in what was a very, very contentious game filled with tons of animosity.
Yeah, well, at Ottawa, had to play that kind of a dirty game because they knew everything was over. The series was over. Their season was over. We all kind of felt the writing on the wall the way Game 3 ended, that this was just, an Ottawa team that had played well to get to this point, but just completely ran out of steam. And like I said, the injuries on the blue line just, continued to mount even into the series. And you can't have that against a team that shoots like Carolina, that can, play you any style of way and just kind of wear you down. But I agree with you, and I agree with what Biz said. And then Ridley Gregg, like I said on Twitter, it's an absolutely bitch-made move. With all the changes we've had over the years with the physicality of the game of hockey, one rule that has stood for at least the last 30 years, so my entire hockey viewing life, was third man in. If you're third man into a fight or altercation, you're ejected, especially when you're throwing punches. But never mind the fact you still got these guys throwing punches with their fucking gloves on, still trying to maneuver and do things with sticks in their hands. Okay, things that definitely need to be reprimanded, something that needs to be addressed by the league. in the offseason for sure, because enough of this, because that's where you start to have these freak injuries, fluke injuries, seeing guys getting hit with. It was funny. I was actually talking with my mom yesterday because she was watching some of the games. She says, I feel like I've seen somebody get hit in the face with a stick, between the whistles and the scrum in almost every game this postseason. I said, yeah, you're probably right, because these guys are getting into these scrums, not dropping their equipment, and you're going to have a real serious injury at some point with somebody getting hit in the face with a stick during the scrum, or getting hit and getting punched with a glove on at some point. And for Ridley Gregg to do that, it's just like I said, it's a bitch made move. Fight somebody one-on-one, pull somebody aside, but don't hit somebody who's already in a fucking headlock. You just don't do that. And in a different time, we probably would have seen a bench clearing brawl or some shit stem from something like that. It's just, there's no place for it in the game, honestly. But like I said, hats off to Carolina for playing a great game and taking care of business. But you just hate to see shit like that at any point in the game. Like I said, we love physicality, we love fighting, but there's a code that you honor. Really, Greg crossed that code.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, you absolutely can't. The guy's defenseless. Doesn't even know you're there, probably. Doesn't even know what the hell you're doing. Doesn't even know you're there and that you're about to do that. So there's no way he can defend himself. It's just ridiculous chicken shit. It's being a coward. It's being a fucking coward. That's what it is. And it's a terrible gesture. You're right. I mean, I shudder to think if that's Ridley Gregg circa 1991, 1992, and he's doing that. And if we have a Bob Probert and a Stu Grimson in the arena, they might be jumping off the bench to rip that guy's head off. I'm serious. I'm not kidding either. If you watch hockey, it could have happened.
He would be eating his meals through a straw for a good length of time.
Yeah. Although Nick Delorier, man, it took all the restraint from him to go after him. You could tell he saw it on the bench and he was just seething. Nicholas Delorier, and right after that happened, you could see he wanted a piece of somebody. Right after that whole melee and incident happened. But at the end of the day, as far as the hockey on the ice is concerned, Carolina was just better, deeper, stronger. And that's all there is to it, really. I thought Linus Ullmark had a hell of a series, to be honest. In a losing cause. So, I will certainly give him credit. There's no question. He was solid even in defeat. Dallas, Minnesota, another really great game in this series. Really, really entertaining throughout. And the Minnesota Wild find a way, just found a way. They obviously fell behind 1-0 early in the first period. They get the game-tying goal, a little bit of a lucky bounce to tie it 1-1. And Dallas ends up going ahead 2-1 with Miro Heiskanen, a bargain bin special for Alex, plus $750, with a great price on that as well yesterday. He had the shots on goal going too. That was probably a good look just because of how often he was shooting the puck in the series, but he connects with a late power play goal. At the time, we thought it was going to be really a disastrous goal for Minnesota, big momentum killer, but credit to them. They had a third period. They were pushing pretty good. Ottinger was phenomenal in a losing effort. I mean, he was excellent. I mean, even in the overtime before the goal, some of the saves he made to keep overtime going, absolutely outstanding. Volstad, though, was pretty good as well. And it was Marcus Foligno. And I know Marcus Foligno's chipped in a few goals here and there in the playoffs, and a lot of them have been of that variety, just crashing the net, finding a loose puck, it ended up trickling in behind Ottinger, and he slams it in and ends up tying the game at 2 at the side of the net. He tried to do his old man's Foligno leap there into the air, and he kind of botched it. I think he kind of fell down on his skis.
Yeah.
I think old man Mike Foligno is going to be giving his son the business for that. Hey, if you're going to be like me, at least do it right. At least don't fall down on your fucking ass when you do it. But he did there on that the game-tying goal, 2-2. And by the way, I'm referencing his dad, Mike Foligno. He always did that when he scored a big goal. He jumped up in the air, leaped up in the air. Go look at all the highlights. I remember countless times he did that for a big goal for his team back in the day. And then in overtime, there's nothing anybody can do. Certainly nothing Ottinger can do. What a tip, what a redirection by Matt Boldy. I guess the only thing they could have done is take him out in front of the net, and nobody did. Can't let a guy with that kind of hand-eye coordination and skill end up, be at camping out in front of the net to be able to redirect it. But credit to the Wild, gutsy win, a pretty important win, because I think there's probably no road back if they fall down 3-1 in the series. But instead, here they are, 2-2, best of 3. And I'm looking good in this series as far as the 6 and 7 is concerned with Dallas and Minnesota. Now, in the past, I had not been believing in Minnesota pushing Dallas or anybody for that matter into deeper waters, considering their first-round woes. But I felt that Minnesota could be competitive enough in this series with probably the best roster they've had in all these years to push it to 6 or 7. They have, and it's anyone's series now.
Yeah, yes. Technically it is anyone's series. Now, here's the thing. That Wild game, they needed to win, obviously, but the way that they played in that second and third period leading up to overtime, you could see where Dallas is clearly the better team. The passing woes were still there for Minnesota. It's funny, I was talking with a couple people watching the game that said this team hasn't looked like themselves all year, and I said, yeah, because the passing. I said, since the Olympic break, the Wild's passing is still not up to the level that it was when it was November and December. They were one of the best probably puck moving teams in the entire league, and you can see where there's still issues where they had a lot of turnovers in the neutral zone. Dallas was still able to find ways to hem them up and take away space. It's Dallas is still looking like the better team. It's just a matter of them capitalizing on their offensive chances. If they can start firing and start getting better quality shots, this series could be over, next 2 games, honestly. But the Wild, like I said, holding strong. The goaltending has been fantastic. They said at both ends. I'm reading stupid shit from both of the newspapers here talking about, is Jesper Wallstedt finally the guy? Yes! He's been the fucking guy all year long. I don't understand why we're even having this question. This guy looks like a capable, quality goaltender because he's the best goaltender this franchise has fucking had since Nicholas Backstrom. And they're still writing things like, wow, he had such a great game, yesterday. Maybe he's finally the guy who can get over Philip Gustafsson? Yeah, he's better than Philip Gustafsson.
Of course.
He's better than Marc-Andre Fleury's last 2 years of his career. I don't know why there's if I'm Wallstedt and they end up losing this series, I have to really have maybe a talk with my agent and be like, do they really want me here? Do they love me here? They called me the Wall of St. Paul for 2 months, and now all of a sudden they're still questioning me, even though I'm the one carrying this fucking team down the stretch. It's insane to me. This guy's played his ass off again yesterday, and here you are. You got media still questioning his play. He's the third best player on the fucking team right now. It's Brock Faber's number 1. Quinn Hughes is number 2, despite him still not really scoring as much. And then your number 3 guy is Jesper Wallstedt. There's no more questions here. This is a guy you need to fucking lock down for a long-term deal because he's the reason why you have a shot at possibly winning this series and not instead of being down 3-1 heading to Dallas tied 2-2. It just makes no sense to me. But, kudos to them for getting the win. Now we'll see what happens going back to Dallas. Already saw the Wild get a big win in game 1. I'm sure they feel a little bit more confident heading back to Dallas now, knowing that they can win there and knowing that they had that win because of their great goaltender, Jesper Wallstedt, in game 4.
Yeah, he was excellent in defeat. The 2 goalies I feel bad for yesterday is Allmark and Wallstedt. They were great, and even in a losing cause. And you're right about the passing, because I'll say this about the Minnesota goals that were scored. Where was the one beauty goal that they scored yesterday? Crisp goal, fluid goal. You can't find it. The first goal was a lucky bounce the first goal. The second goal, it hit Ottinger, fell behind him, and there's Foligno whacking it home behind him. And then the third goal is the redirection, the tip by Boldy. It's not like crisp passing, this wonderful odd man rush, this dynamic goal that went in for Minnesota in any of their 3 goals yesterday. So you're right. Just the crispness and the precision is still a bit off. Credit to them for getting the 3 goals still, but none of them were Picasso's. None of them yesterday. So that's exactly what your point is validated by that. It's not like there was a pretty goal there for Minnesota yesterday. The passing does need to get better. The last game, Philly-Pittsburgh, that's why Dan Muse is coaching. The goalie switch worked. Shelovs was better than Skinner. He was very, very good yesterday. The team rallied around it, responded to it, and the Pittsburgh Penguins get off the mat, avoid elimination, and they send the series back to the Berg for Game 5 with a victory against the Pittsburgh Penguins, or against the Philadelphia Flyers, 4-2 last night. This was another, other than the Pittsburgh being the team getting the empty net goal, because we both had a little bit of Philly to get the empty net goal, but we did have empty net goal in the game, of course, which you can bet at BetMGM. That was another game where the third period went over the total. The full game went over the total. I posted this on Twitter, and I'll reiterate it here with the 2 elimination games yesterday. The first 2 elimination games of the playoffs, over 1.5 third period. If you bet it pregame or put it in a parlay like we did, we put the over 1.5 third period of both Carolina, Ottawa, and Pittsburgh, Philly into a parlay at plus 114 before the game. If you had over 1.5 third period pregame or in a parlay, if you had over 2.5 third period in both games, elimination games that is, and over 5.5 full game in both elimination games yesterday, you swept the board. Over 1.5 third period, over 2.5 third period, over 5.5 full game, 2-0 in the 2 games yesterday, each of them. 6-0 combined there with those 3 bets yesterday. I mean, it's food for thought, guys. Full game over, take a piece of it in an elimination game, and then you really want to tack on live overs. Pre-game, you could go third period over pre-game, probably in a parlay. And if you think we can push 3 goals, and we did get 3+ goals in the third period of both games yesterday, you can do what Alex did with over 2.5 third period pre-game at a nice plus price as well. So this is something to keep in mind. It worked to perfection, man. You're going to be profitable in these playoffs if you go this route.
Well, here's the real pattern. The pattern is, bet the empty net goal. That team who's looking to clinch to score an empty net goal. Yeah. And then, like I said, at least grab yourself at least, and like I said, BetMGM is your friend with this one, an over 2. Because, like I said, an over 2, you either push on that, or like I said, you can push it a little further with the 2.5, so plus 150. And like I said, I like that spot more at over 2.5 with Philly, Pittsburgh, because I like that over 5.5. But yeah, I would say you can kind of weigh full game options out, like I said, either pregame or in game, and then kind of look at that third period over for, like I said, at least grab yourself a over 2 in the third period overs, but definitely the empty net goal. And that's why I like betting that. And some people said, oh, so you can split empty net goals for either team and get a bigger bump. And that would have worked out fine in Pittsburgh, Philly, but that obviously wouldn't have worked in Carolina, Ottawa. So just any goal, any empty net goal combined with the team to potentially advance the empty net goal. I think those are your 2 better options along with that third period.
Yeah, no doubt. And over 2, that is an option too as well. But you have to go to BetMGM. If you're going to bet the flat 2 with the third period, you're going to have to go to BetMGM for that, because FanDuel, a lot of the others don't offer that. You have to go over 1.5, over 2.5 at a lot of the other books with your period totals. So again, BetMGM has the half goal increment. So make sure if you're interested in the over 2, or if there's, but this only works for yesterday. If there's more than 1 elimination game on the card, which was the case yesterday, that's why we went with the over 1.5 third period parlay pre-game. Yeah. Which is an option if you got more than 1 of those games. Well, credit to Pittsburgh, Alex. They got the job done. I thought Crosby had his best game of the series for sure.
Yeah,
no doubt. Letang setting up Letang. How about the soccer style assist, kicking it over to Letang, who ripped it home past Dan Vladar. And Dan Vladar, the bad giveaway, probably his worst moment of the series. He got caught out of the net, gave it away. Raquel takes advantage. That was a big goal to make it 2-0 early in the second. It was definitely a step back for Vladar. He's had a great series. Definitely his worst game of the series last night. But I look, there's no reason to panic yet if you're Philadelphia, but you're going to have to raise your game a little bit, because now Pittsburgh's got some confidence. You're going to have a little bit of mojo now going back home. I think the Flyers are still in very good shape. But yeah, they got up the ante, and Tocchet kind of said it in the post game. You just not sharp, not crisp. They looked like they were winning more of the battles, a little more urgency on their side. Philadelphia will have to correct that in the next game. But shout out to the veteran Penguins, Alex, who avoid the sweep.
Yeah, they did what they had to do, and it was just, I said it yesterday, we've seen great ones get swept out of series, but it was still just hard to fathom, that we see a Sidney Crosby Penguins team, especially the way that he's carried this team the last 3 years, that they would just lay down and be bounced out, especially against a rival, especially on the road. Like I said, he had to step up and have his biggest game of the series, and he did that, and kept them alive. Now, I don't know if it's going to be enough to where they can start getting momentum back and even going back home for Game 5, I still think the series could be over. But that's what a vintage style Crosby looks like. That was a vintage game from him, a Hall of Fame style game from him. And Shilov's, listen, this is a guy we can't sneeze on. Come through in a big spot like that. I talked about how this man won a Calder Cup, came in with Vancouver, the series a couple of years ago where he was the third string goaltender, but he came in and that's where we saw that he belongs in the NHL, belongs at this higher level. This is a quality goaltender. And this is a guy where, I believe Pittsburgh might have found something in him where, yes, even though they have Stuart Skinner, we know his pedigree over the last couple of seasons. Shilovs could easily be the guy of the future. If I were making a call right now, if I were Pittsburgh's GM, I'd probably be pushing my chips more towards Shilovs than Skinner from a long-term perspective. So, that's something to keep an eye on. And obviously, I would assume he gets the net again in Game 5. You got to roll the guy who's only got the win. Yeah. So let's see if he can pull another win out. And now you've got some doubt creeping in. We still talk about how young and overall inexperienced in a playoff situation this Flyers team's in. If you get the spark rolling with 87 and 58 and 71 guys who have won and been there before, maybe this series kind of pops back up and they have some life again. So it'd be interesting to see Game 5. I probably won't have anything pregame Game 5, to be honest. That's one that I definitely want to watch and see where the momentum takes that game, and then look for things in game.
I like how you said that, because there's something I want to talk with you about after the show, and if I think kind of know where I'm going with that, but we'll talk about it after the show. Anyway, as far as that's it for It was a good Saturday. It was just slightly profitable. I mean, what hurt me the most? It was Dallas, Minnesota over, falling short, because that was the best bet. That was one of the bigger bets. Everything else was great, though, pretty much.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Fantastic. We nailed the elimination games with the overs and the third period overs. And then I jumped in personally on live overs in both games, Philly and the Ottawa game, when it was like that 2-1 score in the second period of both games. We jumped in with live overs, too. We got greedy, essentially, and it paid off, though. Greed worked in this case, no question. Let's get greedy with the Sunday card and try to make some money. Here we go. Game 4, Buffalo-Boston. Buffalo leading the series 2-1, -110 even money, 5.5 the total in this game. I think it's a Bruins spot. I do. I think the more I watch this series, Boston's maybe up 2-1 in this series if we don't have a sequence that took place in Game 3. And look, Buffalo was better. Buffalo deserved to win. They got stronger as the game went on. I think once they got the 2-1 lead, they were really good, putting that game to bed. But let's not forget, Boston scored the first goal, went up 1-0, and then, of course, there was the penalty shot attempt for Victor Arvidsson that he was not able to convert on. If he scores there, it's 2-0 Boston, and that's a different game, possibly. And maybe that's a game the Boston Bruins win instead of lose. And then, of course, right after the missed penalty shot by Arvidsson, what did we see? Buffalo was able to come back, tie the game, and really the game kind of flipped from that point on. And that's when the Sabres really started to get their momentum. We cannot forget there's been a back-and-forth series so far. So the zigzag theory, I always say with the zigzag theory, it works in the competitive games, in the competitive series. And so far we saw Buffalo win Game 1, even though they were outplayed for over 2 periods in Game 1. Boston won Game 2, completely outplaying Buffalo there. Game 3, I thought Boston, actually for the first half of that game, I thought Boston outplayed Buffalo again. But Buffalo, once they tied it after the Arvidsson missed penalty shot, you could see the momentum swing. I thought the Sabres were pretty good after that. But you could argue there's been 9 periods of hockey in this series that Boston's won more of the individual periods than Buffalo in this series. I think that's a fair comment. I think that's a fair assessment. I think it's an accurate assessment of this series so far. So I think Boston will come out strong. This is not a team that wants to go down 3-1 back to the insane asylum there of KeyBank Center for Game 5 of this series in Buffalo. I do like Boston. And Boston, by the way, has scored the first goal of the game in every game in this series. Now, I like Boston first goal, first period. The only concern with that, even though Boston has scored, because you think, wow, Boston scored the first goal in every game. Boy, we've got to love Boston first goal, first period in this game, being down 2-1 in the series. The only problem is Boston was able to score the first goal in the first period of Game 1 of the series, But the first goal from Boston in game 2 and game 3 both came in the second period. So that's been because we had scoreless first periods each of the last 2 games here in this series. So I think what I'm going to do here is I don't do this often. Normally I just go right to first goal, first period. I'm going to split. I'm going to split the bet up into 2. Half of it on first goal, first period, Boston, and then half of it on just Boston to score the first goal of the game, regardless of when it is. Because I'm worried a little bit about that. We get that slow start, that defensive-minded start once again, especially with it being a day game, early afternoon, and maybe that first goal doesn't come until the second period, as it did in the last 2 games. So I'm going to split it. Boston first goal, first period, which will be plus money, and then probably more around that minus 120, 25 is what I'm seeing right now with Boston just to score the first goal at any point of the game. I like that more than Boston full game. I think I will sprinkle on the Bruins money line. I do think we go back tied. I really do. I think Boston's made a really strong account of themselves. My big fear is we've got the Lion King here, Alex Lyon, in net for Buffalo, and he's been great on the road. He's been great on the road. I don't love the idea of betting against that kind of track record, but I think Boston's going to bring it hard, bring it strong. They've still got a phenomenal home record this year at TD Garden. So I like Boston to tie the series. Little on the full game money line, but like those early looks just a little bit more. First goal, first period, and first goal for Boston. Alex, what do you think here? Sabres, Bruins.
Yeah, pregame, this is a draw bet for me. I got plus 312 at Bet Online. That price is still available.
I think it's due for overtime. Sign me up for that, too. I think we're due for some overtime in this series. I really do.
Yeah, I like the spot, but I like the spot for Boston to get this win and even this series up. I was trying to look at FanDuel. They did not have the win in overtime prop up anymore. I think those are pretty much gone now, unfortunately. But like I said, at minus $1.10, you could play that now, or you could wait in game because I do think it'll be goals back and forth. So I just try and grab Boston at a plus price in game. But like I said, the draw definitely feels like it could come here. And this is one where I wouldn't be shocked if it's, like I said, slow start early, and then we have a couple of goals, but 5.5 is a little tricky here. It wouldn't shock me at all if this is 2-2 heading to overtime. So I'm staying away from the total. Like I said, go at Boston in game, but pregame I like to draw here.
Shots on goal props worth mentioning. 3 straight games over shots on goal for Josh Doan and for Bowen Byram of the Buffalo Sabres. Bo Byram is shooting the puck quite a bit from the blue line. So those are some shots on goal looks, possibly Doan and Byram. 2 straight games going over their shot prop for Victor Arvidsson for Boston, Pavel Zacha for Boston, and Jack Quinn for Buffalo. So those are definitely some shots on goal to be aware of. We've got a 3-game point streak for Peyton Krebs, and you're still getting a great plus 140 for him to get a point, whether it be a goal or assist. Charlie McAvoy, Bo Byram, another guy. It's worth a point prop bet. He's collected a point in 2 straight games, and you can get plus 160 or 70 for Bo Byram to find the back of the net, which goes hand in hand with the fact he's getting involved in the offense more and shooting the puck more. No question. Alex Tuch on a 5-game point streak. Oh, I got the power. Owen Power talked about how his point prop, there's been no adjustment either. He's at a point in every game in this series, 5 straight going back to the regular season, and you're still getting over plus 200 for this guy to get a point. Owen Power for Buffalo on the blue line. Outstanding value. You just keep taking advantage of it at this point if they're not going to make the adjustment. Block shots, Charlie McAvoy, back-to-back games over 2.5 block shots. If you're going to look at someone for Buffalo, because I think Boston's going to probably amp it up. Aspero didn't go over last game, but Aspero had been a good shot block candidate for Boston. Maybe look toward a Samuelson here for Buffalo. He might be someone that's worth interest here. I think this could be a good. Now, Swayman, by the way, it's worth noting, 3 games he's gone over his saves prop. You could ride it if you want. I have a feeling Boston's going to control a little more of the flow today, with this being a very important game for them to avoid going down 3-1. So this could be a game to look at Lyon over 23.5 saves, actually. I could see Boston kind of amping things up a little bit. And then just quickly, as far as the goal props here, I mentioned it already. I'm still going to take shots with the line that I've mentioned throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs here of Doan and Ostlund. Ostlund, I thought, coming in for Josh Norris in Game 3, he was excellent. I don't think Lindy Ruff and the Sabres could have envisioned it going any better with Noah Ostlund on that third line with Doan and Benson. He fit in seamlessly. He had a tremendous game. I like Noah Ostlund today for sure, along with Benson and Doan. As far as looking at props, Krebs is probably worth a goal prop on the top line. I like what Robert's thinking with Ryan McLeod, the veteran. Remember, he's been through playoff wars before with the Edmonton Oilers, and he's been very noticeable here. So there's some good goal props as well. You're right. I think Pasternak's got to kind of amp it up a little bit. He was kind of quiet last game. Usually when that happens, it means he could make an impact next game. Pasternak, Arvidsson, Geeky, I'll be interested in props for those players for Boston here. All right, Game 4 in the West. We've got the Colorado Avalanche taking on the LA Kings. Colorado looking to sweep this series, -170 road favorites, 5.5 the total. 3-0 series lead here for Colorado. I think it probably is over. I just do. I mean, I think LA is, just up against it. I thought they had chances to maybe steal one in Denver in those low-scoring, tight-checking affairs. Well, they were 2-1 losses. They were right there. Forsberg was very good. They held this potent Colorado team down, but they just can't score. They can't find the back of the net. LA consistently. That's been the problem in this series. And Wedgwood's been a part of it. But Colorado's a sneaky better defensive team than you think, and there's just not really enough punch from the bottom six from the LA Kings when you look at it as well. Now, we did mention the fact that the road teams have had a harder time sweeping series over the years than the home teams, yet yesterday it kind of went the other way with the home team actually losing, but the road team winning and finishing off the series. So, yeah, I'm going to go Colorado team total over pregame. They finally hit 4 goals last game. For the first time in this series and went over their team total. I think they're starting to get a better read on Forsberg, too. The more he starts, the more success they're starting to have Colorado against him. I don't think they're going to make a goalie change today. I can't see it. I can't see DJ Smith saying, well, we're down 3-0. Let's change the goalie. It's not Forsberg's fault. He's been great. It's the only reason the games were close in Denver. Let's not kid ourselves. It's the only reason those games were 2-1 for the most part. You can't make a change. Kemper was a hot mess down the stretch. So I can't see DJ Smith doing what we might see Edmonton do, which we'll get to a little bit later, and change the goalie. I think it's going to be Forsberg again here in the net for the Kings. But, yeah, I'm going to go back to the well here. Cashed finally for the first time in this series. Colorado team total over 3.5 in Game 3. I'm going to go back to the well with over 5.5. That cashed for the first time in this series in Game 3, over 5.5, -120. I'm going to go back to that here. And you know what we're betting here. It's an elimination game. We're going to bet third period over. You can go over 2 pregame at BetMGM. We can't parlay over 1.5 with another game because there's no other elimination game on the board today. So you can go over 2 at BetMGM, over 2.5 at plus money. As well is out there to bet over pregame. I'm going to look for live overs. If this total is in that live 3.5, 4.5 range at any point, we're going to hit those live overs like we did yesterday with Carolina, Ottawa, and with Pittsburgh, Philly. And, of course, the empty net props. Empty net goal, plus 125. Colorado empty net goal, I think, is plus 225 last I checked at BetMGM. So both of those on the card once again. Alex, Colorado, L.A.
Yeah, like I said, elimination game. So for me, it's empty net goal plus 125. Avalanche to get the empty net goal plus 225, as you mentioned. Team total, or it's not team total, sorry. Third period over 2 -115 at BetMGM. And I'm going to go with Avalanche. Third period alternate team total over 1.5 plus 180. I believe that if we it's going to be LA pulling the goalie a couple times.
That's a really good look, man. I never even thought of that. The third period team total. That's really good, man. That's really good.
So you can get that. That's over at FanDuel plus 180. So those are the 4 plays I have. I got a unit split between those 4. I think Colorado wraps this up. Like I said, it was a fun run for LA. But like I said, Colorado's just playing too good at hockey right now. And they haven't at least it doesn't seem like they've expounded a lot of energy, which is huge for that team. When you consider, having a great, strong run like they had, and then kind of, in a way, backing into the playoffs as the top team in the league, we've seen teams get caught up in that spot. So a lot of people say, "Oh, Colorado, President's Trophy curse, hot first half curse." We've seen that happen with Tampa Bay and Boston go down. For them to play this series and not expedite a lot of energy, especially knowing who they have coming up next. You either have a Dallas team that you've had wars with, or you got a Minnesota team that's going to finally break out for the first time in ages. That's a huge step for Colorado to possibly be able to wrap this series up, have a few days off, and say, hey, we didn't really have to, go through a strenuous first round series. We have time now to fully plan and prepare for our second round opponent. So I think they get it done here. Avs emptying that goal in the game. Third period over 2 minus 115, and Avs third period team total over 1.5 plus 180.
No doubt. Good stuff. As far as props go, Gabe Landeskog goal and point. I think they're both worth a look. He's gotten points in 2 straight games, goals in 2 straight games. Here's a slew of point props with great value. I think one of the best forwards in this series for LA, Trevor Moore. I think he's had a pretty good series for the Kings. He's pointing back-to-back games and plus price for him to get a point. Quentin Byfield's gotten a point in 2 straight games, minus 110 for him to get a point. Nick Waugh and Devon Taves for Colorado. They've got a point. They've collected a point in 2 straight games, and you're looking at plus 190 to 200 for Nick Waugh to get a point, plus 124, 25 for Devon Taves to get a point. So some real good value in the points markets here in this game. I think Lehkonen, Nelson for goal props for Colorado. I don't mind either of those. Block shots, Ceci has gone over his 1.5 blocked shots in every game in this series. So is Doughty. So is Cale Makar, but now you're laying juice with it, minus 165, minus 170. But Ceci, Doughty, Makar over their blocked shots in every game in this series so far. So that is something to keep in mind. Brant Clark for LA has gone over blocked shots 2.5 in 2 straight games. He didn't go over in game 1, but he went over in game 2 and in game 3. I think there is some truth to Kadri not being 100%. He's gotten it out, but I could see that being the case. And normally we like the Forsberg props, but let's not sleep on Wedgwood. Wedgwood's gone over 23.5 saves now in 3 games in this series. And this is LA with their backs against the wall. So this could be a Scott Wedgwood spot for the over saves for him. Because, look, LA's trying to avoid being swept on home ice. I'm sure they're going to try to throw everything at the net here in game 4 this afternoon. So the Wedgwood over saves prop might be worth a look here. Lots of travel miles, too, for Johnny Forsland and Edzo, because they're going to be calling this game right after being in Minnesota. And that game went to overtime, too. So probably delayed their exit from Minnesota. So, like I said, they're working up a storm here in the playoffs. All right, next up, well, this is a series that's been one of the best series here in the first round. Tampa Bay, Montreal, 3 overtime games. Are we going to get a 4th straight overtime game? Lightning and Habs here tonight at the Bell Center. It's Tampa Bay minus 115 road favorites. Total here sitting at, looks like 5.5, depending on where you look. Of course, Montreal with the overtime winner. Isn't it amazing what can happen for Montreal when Lane Hutson finally decides to shoot the damn puck? They've been just crying out to Lane Hutson for most of the season. Don't pass, as much as you do. Yes, you're a great passer, but you have to try to shoot the puck on occasion. And he finally did that. And what a shot it was with traffic in front. Andrei Vasilevsky didn't pick it up, and it was obviously. I like that for Perlo saying too. Sam Malinsky over shots for Colorado makes sense because Manson's out. But yeah, great shot by Lane Hutson. I think that's what he's got to keep doing. If they're going to play the pass, shoot it at least a little bit more, and it worked that way for Montreal with the overtime winner. And Chris Cuthbert, boy, you think he was saving that line for the call of that goal? The Canadians are in victory lane tonight. Yeah. Don't tell me that just came into his mind off the top of his head. He's had that stashed away for a little bit when you have that, I think. But it was a great call anyway. But big win for Montreal. Tampa Bay, this is supposed to be their spot, right? To respond, tie it up. They're a veteran group. I don't know. I like the way Montreal is going. Obviously, I like them in Game 3. The way I was going to approach it was if Montreal wins Game 3, I'm probably going to lay off them in Game 4. But I'm not really running to bet Tampa in that Bell Center. I mean, that crowd is really – it really was tremendous, how loud they were, throughout the game. It felt like the mics were going to get, taken in by the crowd noise with how loud it was. So it's one of those deals where, I think Tampa Bay will have a strong pushback. I look at the current prices. I mean, certainly Tampa to score early, I could see it, in this game, trying to avoid being down 3-1 in this series. But I just think, too, Montreal, their speed's causing Montreal or Tampa Bay some grief in this series. There's no question about it. And the penalties continue to be a real problem for Tampa. I know they're trying to turn this into a street fight. They're trying to turn this series into a back alley brawl, but it's starting to be at their detriment. It's almost like they're losing focus on winning the actual game and the series, and they're just taking these ridiculous penalties right now at this point in time. We'll see if that continues. This one, I like the first period over for sure, and first period both teams to score. We're starting to see that hit in the series. It hit in Game 3. I think it hit in Game 2 as well, both teams to score in the first period. So that's 2 straight games we've seen first period over and both teams to score first period in this series. And I think I'm going to go back to the well. We'll see about the full game. I'm not so sure about it because, remember, Game 3 in Montreal was a 3-2 final score. We did not get the game over the full game, even though first period there were a lot of goals. Was 1-1. And obviously both teams to score. So I like the goals early in this game for sure. We'll reevaluate from there. I'm going to bet the draw just because it's 3 straight. I have a feeling this one may not go to overtime, but at this point, if it goes to a freaking overtime, Alex, for 4th straight game and I'm not on it, I'm going to be pissed even more than I was the other night. So I'm going to be on the draw just because it's 3 straight that have gone past regulation between these teams here in the series. Alex, what do you think? Tampa Bay, Montreal.
Yeah, it's been a kind of a rough run to, like I said, miss 3 in a row with the draw, and then like I said, you hate to
We're
jump
the kings
on
of
it,
draw season. We haven't even been able to jump in on any of these yet.
Yeah, and then it happens. It reminded me of Hawks with the Hawks and the Coyotes had 5-game series, and all 5 games went to overtime way back in 2012. So you have that sometimes will happen in a postseason series. But this has still been a profitable series. So like I said, we've been cashing with these first period both teams to score, which I like that as well. Plus 186. I think that's a good price for. Like I said, the way that things are set up, I have Tampa to win this series by way of Montreal losing the first round. But I think it's a must-win game for Tampa Bay. You go down 3-1 at this spot, even going back home. Like I said, the way that Tampa's been playing this series, I think you give all the momentum to Montreal where they could close this one out on the road and wrap this up in 5. So I lean with Tampa Bay. Or more than likely will look to try to grab something plus money in the game. Look for a Montreal goal and hope for something in that plus money range. So only thing pregame for me is both teams to score in the first period plus 186, and I will wait in game for that first period over. But if I see Tampa Bay, like I said, if they can cut the shenanigans and just play their game, play their offensive game, not try to muck things up and play back alley hockey against this Habs squad. Get back to trying to score goals and win hockey, win playoff hockey, the style that which you can win playoff hockey. Then that's when I'll try to look for Tampa Bay live. But yeah, this is a huge game here for the Lightning.
It is. It's a huge game, and I respect them enough, but these are guys that have been through a lot of fucking hockey. And I'm not saying they can't turn it up and win tonight and still win the series. Absolutely, they can. I'm not counting Tampa Bay out, not by a long shot here. But the more I watch this series, the more I'm starting to think Montreal's just the fresher, faster, younger, hotter team on the block. That's just what I'm starting to think right now at this point in time. Now, Tampa could prove us wrong and win tonight and tie the series and still win the series. But I'm seeing guys that have played a shit ton of playoff hockey over these years. Point, Kucherov.
Vasilevsky. Because he's got to be the X factor. This has to be a Vasilevsky.
He's got to have a steal one type of game. He hasn't had that. He hasn't had that for a long time, quite honestly.
Yeah, right. He needs to steal one for his team today.
Yeah, no doubt. So, just what we've seen in the past tells me Tampa, but what my eyes are seeing in this series has me kind of leaning that I wouldn't be totally shocked if Montreal goes up 3-1. I really would not. Like Vasi's, Vasi, I'll point out the record again. They won game 2. Coming into these playoffs, it was 4-12. So 4-13, 5. It's 5-14 in his last 19 playoff games. Vasilevsky, 5-14. It's not a good track record. It's not. And like I said, he's got to have one of those turn back the clock, 37 saves, 38 saves, maybe steal one that maybe Tampa Bay shouldn't win. That's what they kind of need right now.
Yeah.
As far as goal props, I agree. I'm going back to the well with Josh Anderson. He finally didn't score for the first time in this series, but go watch that game or the highlights. He had a million chances, Josh Anderson. He had a breakaway coming out of the penalty box and didn't score. He's got stopped by Vasilevsky. He's still a good bet. He's been all over it in this series. Josh Anderson at plus 600 for the Montreal Canadiens. Slavkovsky. Caulfield continues to be quiet, but they haven't needed him. I think you got to take a shot now that he's shooting the puck more, and the shots on goal numbers bear that out. Lane Hutson's gone over 1.5 shots on goal in all 3 games in the series. You can bet that. You sprinkle on the goal prop. He scored now in back-to-back games, and it's plus 650 for Lane Hutson, who has finally figured out shoot the fucking puck, and he's finally doing it for the Montreal Canadiens. Hagel has scored in each game in this series. God almighty, what would they do without Brandon Hagel? Think about that. They're down 2-1. What would they do without him? He's been so spectacular for the Tampa Bay Lightning here in the series. Maybe a momentum thing, too, for Kirby Dach. Kirby Dach's gone through all kinds of vitriol and get him out of the lineup. He's not producing. He's not scoring. He had the horrible gaffe in game 2 in overtime. People were surprised he didn't come out of the lineup, but Marty St. Louis played a gut intuition there that he's going to step it up. And he had a terrific game 3, including scoring the big tying goal to make it 2-2. Kirby Dach, maybe he gets a little momentum from that. If you think so, plus 600 for him to find the back of the net here for the Habs in this game. I think for Tampa Bay as well, Gage Gonsalves, he's had chances. He's with Point and Kucherov on that top line, so I think Gonsalves could be worth a shot. Demidov's got to hit the net, Nick. That's the thing with he has had chances. That chance he had with the one-timer in game 3 the other night, if he hits the net, it's in. And it was a wide open net. There was no way Vasilevsky was going to get over on that scoring chance, and he just put it wide. Just didn't even just missed a wide open 2x4. And that's kind of the series he's had, Ivan Demidov. He's had his chances, but just hasn't been able to find the back of the net. Just been a little off so far here in this series for the Montreal Canadiens. Let me see just quickly on the other props. Point props, Gensel's got a point in 5 straight. Hagel and Hutson have points in every game in this series. It'll be interesting to see if that continues. Blocked shots, Lane Hutson over 1.5 block shots, 2 straight games. Caden Gooley over 1.5 block shots, 2 straight games. Eric Chernak for Tampa Bay over 1.5 blocked shots in 2 straight games. Alexander Carrier for Montreal over 2.5 blocked shots in 2 straight games. All pretty solid candidates. Vasilevsky's gone over his saves prop, 22.5 in back-to-back games. Dobish has this could be a spot for Dobish over saves. I mean, Tampa's got to amp it up a little bit. 23.5 is the number with Jakob Dobish and his over saves prop. I think I have a little bit of interest in that here tonight for game 4. All right, last game, I should say, for this Sunday slate. It is another game 4 here. Edmonton, Anaheim. We've got Edmonton minus 130 to minus 140 is what we're looking at here as road favorites. The total here, 7 to 7.5. There is finally, for the first time in this series, not a 6.5 out there pregame with this total for game 4 between the Anaheim Ducks and the Edmonton Oilers. And of course, it should be that way when you see what this series has turned into through the first 3 games with goals galore. The Edmonton defense, we documented it with our recap on after Friday's games. It was embarrassing how bad they were. Bouchard had a terrible night, and it's almost one of these deals where for years they've lived with Bouchard's offensive skill set, and they've lived with his defensive blunders because of what he can do at the other end of the ice. Lug the puck past the blistering Bouch bomb of a shot that he has. But these defensive issues for him, they've been egregious in this series, and it's been the whole team, but Bouchard in particular has had some awful moments defensively. But the first 3 games, 7 goals, 10 goals, 11 goals. We've seen Anaheim score 3, 6, 7. We've seen Edmonton score 4, exactly 4 goals in each game so far here in this series. We'll see how it goes. I'm still not betting an under, obviously, in this series. Here's why I'm a little more cautious with thinking this is going to be a fourth straight, track meet and a fourth straight fire wagon game, because it hasn't been confirmed yet, but if you read the tea leaves, Edmonton is making a goalie change for Game 4 tonight. Everybody seems to think Tristan Jarry is going to get the start here tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. Not that it's been all on Connor Ingram. I don't think Connor Ingram was to blame in Game 1. I don't really think Connor Ingram was to blame in Game 2. Now, Game 3, I don't think that was a great game. I don't think that was a great game for Connor Ingram. You know what the goal I didn't really love from Connor Ingram? The Carlson goal after 5-4, like the Seneca shot was a pretty good shot, but I've seen goalies stop that one from just beyond the faceoff dot on the left wing side. The Leo Carlson goal that made it 6-4 right after, great move. Leo Carlson's a hell of a player. I wouldn't mind seeing my goalie give me a big-time save in a big moment like that, down by a goal with Anaheim having all the momentum, and I didn't get that save out of Connor Ingram in that instance. And then the goal that I really didn't like was the Jeffrey VL goal late in the game to kind of put it away when it was 5-4. I know Ekholm screwed up. The whole defense for Edmonton screwed up, but that was a backhand at the side of the net, and Ingram was off his angle, and it beat. I didn't like that goal, the one that put it away for Anaheim from Jeffrey VL, 6-4 in that third period. So I think that was his first, you got to shoulder some of the blame now for what just happened. It's not all on the blue line, which has been a mess. You got to make some saves too, and Connor Ingram didn't do a good enough job of that in Game 3. So I think Chris Knobloch is going to make the switch. I think we're going to see Tristan Jarry. I think, too, part of it is we gave up this, we present Skinner the other way and other, I think, picks and prospects the other way in that trade for Tristan Jarry. We got to see if this guy can play for us here in the playoffs. Now's the time, because now we've seen Ingram take a step back. You got to see what you got in him. Can he step things up? And that's a big if, though, because Tristan Jarry's tenure with the Edmonton Oilers has been largely horrific. That would be the word. Largely horrific. Jonathan Davis was in our chat earlier, and he brought up something about the shots on goal allowances for Edmonton lately with Jarry in net. And they have really reverted to this real tight shell style, type of play with Jarry in net, because almost like they're trying to shield this guy and make sure he faces as few shots as possible. So this is, I've been riding the overs in every game, and there's still no way I'm betting the under tonight, but I'm a little bit more cautious. You know what I mean about the over in this spot tonight? It's now up to 7. There's no way I would bet it pregame, I'll tell you that. 7.5. I still will bet both teams to score in the first period, even though that price is, barely plus money now because of, how high this total is right now in game. But we have seen, both teams to score first period. It seems like you don't need much. And plus, Jarry hasn't played in a while. So this could be one of these deals where Jarry gives up that early goal and then he settles in. And if he's going to play good at all, he could give up that early goal because he hasn't played in a while and then start to get better, start to settle in as the game goes on. So I'm still going to be on both teams to score first period here, plus 132 at FanDuel is the price with that. That's probably the only pregame move I'm going to make here. I mean, it's supposed to be a spot where Edmonton steps up, ties the series up. It's supposed to be. But if you're going to bet them, take team total over. They have scored 4 in every game in this series so far, even in the losses. Game 2, they lost. Game 3, they lost. Well, they still scored 4 goals in those 2 games. Both of those games, they both went over their team total in those games. So again, I say, if you like Edmonton, if you have any interest whatsoever in betting the Edmonton Oilers, don't lay the buck 35, 40, 45 with the money line. Go over 3.5 minus 130 instead. That way you just focus on them doing what they've done in every game so far in this series, which is score 4 goals. I could get behind that a little bit. But pregame, the main look here is both teams to score first period and evaluate from here. I'll throw it to you, Alex, and I'll just say one last thing about Jarry. If he does start, this could go any way for him. He could be awful again, and it's another game where Anaheim's just rolling it up, 6, 7, 8 goals. But a part of me really does think he'll play good, he'll play solid, And Edmonton will make a real strong concerted effort to tighten this thing up, which they fucking have to do at this point. Because Anaheim's proven that actually an up and down track meet, odd man rush chance type of game is actually to our benefit, not yours in this series. And everybody in Edmonton, Hyman, the coach, everybody after game 3 was singing from the same fucking songbook. We have to tighten it up. We got to try to keep this thing lower and slower here. And it would help if Jason Dickinson plays. That would help the effort to be better defensively because he's a great shutdown defenseman, and there is talk he might be back. He's upgraded to a game-time decision here for Game 4 for Edmonton. They need him out there defensively, penalty kill, you name it. And plus Henrique's been out. And Dickinson and Henrique are penalty killers, 2 of their better forwards for Edmonton. Yeah. That's been a big problem with how miserable defensively they've looked in this series so far. But it could go either way. Maybe Jari's a mess, even though they turned to him. Or this is like Pittsburgh last night, Alex. Were they going to spark from it? He plays well. He sees this as an opportunity where if I play well and I win tonight and we tie the series, it's my net now. Tristan Jarry is the goalie moving forward if they win this game tonight, Edmonton. So he looks at this as a real opportunity. And the team might rally around it very much like Pittsburgh did last night with Shelov. So I keep the door open for that to happen. Alex, how do you see it? It's a very fascinating game. I can't wait. Oilers.
It is. And this is one where I'm passing it pregame because you have those options. But you've got door number 3 is that if this Edmonton team as a whole, they're talking about playing tighter, playing lower, slower hockey, and they set up this kind of wall or nest around Jarry, what do we always talk about when that happens? When you have teams that go through these stretches where they're having high offensive games and, the defense has been absolutely sloppy, they tighten up so much that their offense collapses. And you can't afford to do that against Anaheim because Anaheim's going to run and gun you no matter what. If you give them the space and opportunity, they're going to take it. They know how to move the puck. Like I said, they're seemingly faster at times than Edmonton. So I think either way you look at this, I would lean more toward Anaheim in this spot. Because of the fact, like I said, there's just so many question marks with Jarry, but the bigger question mark is how does that team play in front of Jarry? And like you said, missing guys like Dickinson and Henrique, not having those penalty killers. If they try to play a shell style, defensive style game, and Anaheim still jumps out and gets to a 2-goal lead early, okay, so now Edmonton has to just dump all that out and get back to playing the spiral wagon hockey, and they end up getting crushed 8-6. So it's nothing looks good for Edmonton in any of the options that you posed or that I've posed. So it's a lean with Anaheim. I might grab a little piece of that plus 115 honestly pregame.
I'm Perla saying I took Ducks team total. I'm tempted. I mean it's hard to trust Tristan Jarry. It's just he's had so many bad moments here with Edmonton, and yet there's part of me that's just saying, because I've seen this with Edmonton, they have done this before. I've seen it even in series past and years past, that all of a sudden they're losing and they have a horrible defensive nightmare of a game, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, bam, Skinner steps up, the team steps up defensively in years past, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, Edmonton's winning a 4-1, 4-2 game. It has happened on occasion. It has happened. I've got a pit in my stomach feel could be a night for one of those for Edmonton. We'll see. But, man, they've got to change. I'll tell you what, if they certainly play trade chances with Anaheim again, they're asking for more trouble. That's on full display. That's why this is a good live betting game for sure, because then you're going to see, are they really tighten it up? Is there a good gap in the neutral zone? Are they really taking away time and space? Is there certainly a bit more of a chip and chase game? They're going to have to play more chip and chase, get in on the forecheck, hammer people, that kind of style. That slows the game down as well. But Edmonton often doesn't like playing that way because they usually like the trade chances game, the rush game, because they usually have the better of it over the other team. Not this Anaheim team. That we're finding out. That's probably why they have to change their spots a little bit. Kooky, lend me Lacombe. Jackson Lacombe has gotten a point in every game in this series, and 6 straight games going back to the regular season. It's minus 125. It's definitely a great price considering how good he's been collecting points from the back end. Vasily Podkolzin's a must bet. He's been the best forward for the Oilers, I think, in this series. 3 straight games with a point for him. Same with Kasperi Kapanen. They've both collected a point in all 3 games in the series. Alex Killorn, we talked about him as being one of those veterans that was going to step up for Anaheim. He's gotten a point in 2 straight games and a goal in 2 straight games. I think he's got a chance maybe to get another plus 400. Great price for Alex Killorn to find the back of the net here. Podkolzin goal prop, Kapanen goal prop, Leo Carlson maybe even finally scored, and he's had chances. Maybe Beckett Seneca gets going a little bit here for Anaheim. That was a nice shot from him the other night. Blocked shots. Ekholm over 7 straight over 1.5 blocked shots, including every game in this series. John Carlson and Jackson Lacombe for Anaheim have gone over their blocked shots in every game in this series so far. They could be worth a look here as far as the blocked shots are concerned. And this, to me, is a Lukas Dostal over saves game. I think for Edmonton, this has come out, storm. Remember, Anaheim was terrible defensively going into this series. I think this gets back to Edmonton carrying the flow, trying to avoid desperation, not a happy team coming out of that game 3. Don't know if they're going to win the game, but from a shots perspective, I think the shots will be there toward the net and toward Lukas Dostal here in this game tonight. So Lukas Dostal over saves, which is at 24.5. I do think that is worth a look as well. Did I mention shots on goal? Yeah, 5 straight over shots for Podkolzin and Carlson. Kapanen, 3 every game he's gone over 1.5 shots on goal. Cutter Gauthier, Alex Killorn, Mason McTavish, and Jackson Lacombe have gone over 1.5 shots on goal. Actually, Gauthier over 3.5 shots, but Killorn, McTavish, Lacombe, they've all gone over 1.5 shots on goal in 2 straight games. All right, there you have it. I mean, we couldn't have packed it with more information than that for the 4 games. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you check out wizardsportspicks.com. Daily premium picks, long-term subscriptions available, Stanley Cup playoffs, NBA playoffs, MLB, and more. And, of course, patreon.com/iceguys, $10 per month, goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting cards, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. And we have more Patreon exclusive Stanley Cup playoff live betcast action coming your way this week. We'll announce the dates. Obviously, we'll announce the day of the show, as always, day of the betcast. But we've got more betcasts coming this week. Stay tuned. Looking forward to that for our Patreon members. So make sure you get on board. Again, your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. $10 per month at patreon.com/iceguys.
And also check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. You have 4 days left to save 20% off all items in the store. Just hit that redeem button at the homepage, add your items to your cart. 20% will be taken off at checkout. Springtime, it's playoff time. It's a great time to grab yourself a hoodie, a t-shirt, a cap, maybe all 3, and you can save 20% for the next 4 days. That's at the Ice Guys store. That's iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
All right, bargain bin special of the night. We did cash one with Alex and Miro Heiskanen yesterday for the Dallas Stars. We'll see how we can add to it here for this Sunday. Alex, bargain bin special of the night.
Yeah, let's go with that game 4 in LA. Colorado, like I said, I think they smell blood. They're ready to wrap this thing up. And I think one guy who will get on the board for the Avs will be Big Val, Valeri Nichushkin. You can get him anytime goal scorer plus 390. That's going to be my bargain bin special for the Sunday.
He's so due to find the back of the net. I agree. I think that's a good one. Valeri Nichushkin, certainly at least worth a bet, no doubt, for the Colorado Avalanche. Plus 390 for Alex with bargain bin special of the night. Bargain bin special for me, I'm going to go with 2 for this slate. Give me Noah Ostlund for Buffalo, plus 500. I thought he was great in game 3 for the Sabres. I think there's a chance he can get on the find the back of the net, playing with Benson and Doan. So let's rock with Noah Ostlund, Buffalo plus 500 for my first bargain bin special. Terry Ray Vegas, you and I are singing from the same songbook, reading the same mail here. Plus 390. Alex Killorn, Anaheim Ducks. That's my other bargain bin special of the night. Goals in back-to-back games. We'll see if he can make it 3 straight for the Ducks. Alex Killorn, Anaheim, plus 390 to go with Noah Ostlund for Buffalo, plus 500 for my 2 bargain bin specials for this Sunday. All right, best bets. Alex, what do you got for best bet?
As much as I love Colorado to wrap this series up in Game 4 against LA, the best bet that I have is empty net goal in that game, plus 125. So even if we have where LA stands up and defends their home ice, maybe they get the empty net goal, plus 125. I think that's the best bet of that slate of spots there. Empty net goal, and that's at BetMGM, plus 125 empty net goal in Colorado, LA.
My best bets from that game, too. I'll go to just straight to the full game over 5.5, minus 120. I like the third period overlook. I like the empty net looks in that game. Colorado finally got this to the 6 mark, 4-2 with the victory in Game 3. LA, probably going to be trailing at some point. Going to have to open up things. Obviously, we could see the floodgates open here in the third period, as we saw in the 2 elimination games yesterday on Saturday. And I think at the end of the day, we get over that 5.5. So Colorado, Los Angeles over 5.5, minus 115 is actually the best price out there with it. That'll be my best bet for this Sunday NHL slate. All right, thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.